Over your career, because it was extreme, or it still is an extremely male-dominated industry. It's a bloke's world.
Yeah.
You would get these positions often for the first time as the first woman, and you have even said, you would be told just to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
Keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
You didn't do that at all.
No.
What do you think gave you the confidence just to go, I'm just going to do this my way?
Yeah, look, I think that is it. I think there's a couple of things. One is really what I think a layered experience that you get. You do something when you're young. You asked me about, catching the bus and taking my friends to places. Well, I think you can layer experience over time. And so my sense of being able to kind of learn that you'll be okay is, so each time you make that step, you go, well, that was okay.
Yeah.
Didn't get me.
I didn't die. Yep.
And you kind of, so I suppose by the time I got to, more senior positions, I'd still sort of learnt that it was okay. There are occasions where you kind of step back off. I used to kind of describe it in my head as I got off the train and went into a siding for a while,
Right.
And then you sort of think, no. And in my case, I felt like I had an obligation, both because of the kind of education I'd been given, the access to, wonderful people who'd supported me, both family and at work, great people who'd put some trust and support into me and encouragement. And also then with the scholarship to America, the scholarship to London, people, I felt like I owe those people, to actually kind of have a go at this and try and do the best I could. And when I came to Victoria, I really felt I owed the citizens of Victoria. I mean, they, that's who I work for. I don't work for Victoria Police. A lot of people make a mistake and think they do. The citizen, when you're a public servant, you work for the citizens,
right?
And it isn't about I think that's an important thing, because you don't work for the politicians, you work for the citizens.
Yeah.
And so what I was trying to do with that job was, well, what would the citizens of Victoria want from me?
Yeah.
And it wasn't to be a go with the flow.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be, because we had a lot of problems, both in the organisation and in the community itself. I think what they wanted of me was to stand up and have a go about a range of issues, and whether it was Aboriginal people and or it was the gay and lesbian community, or it was women who were abused, or the sort of multicultural issues we had because of 9/11, and the damage and harm that could have been done to the Muslim community. There's a whole series of those things that I felt like I needed to be able to say something about, or intervene in, or work with people to kind of work. And then of course within, you had underworld murders, and corruption.
It was a full-on time.
We had an old-fashioned organisation. We had bad management practices. A lot of that had to change as well. So I think, as your comment, that it would have been so much easier. People have said it to me. You just could have gone along to get along. I went, well, but what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
If that's where an organisation's up to, because it's so perfect and everything's so wonderful, well, that might be fine.
Yeah.
But
there was a lot of work to do. You said over your career you've gone, what's the worst thing that can happen here? Which is very powerful, which people would say but not think about, because I think sometimes we live into the stories of worst case scenario all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I used to kind of joke with people and say, well, the worst thing that could happen to me, they could have shot me, and that would have been the police. But it was not going to happen. And it's sort of, I mean, I've had my critics, and there's no doubts about that, and some of them are out there still, and whenever you sort of, I mean, some of them are so nasty on occasions that you'll sort of put your head up over something and they feel like it's important that they just come out and knock you on the head again. And the real issue is whether you pay any attention. I mean, I have a lovely line which I've said before about Jeff Kennett, because he's been quite a critic over time, from the very beginning really, and when he said, I would never have hired you as the Chief Commissioner. And I said, well, that's good, because I never would have worked for you. And you just have to go, do I care? I mean, and what right does someone have to sort of be the arbiter?
Exactly.
Of what's right or wrong. If you've never, there's some lovely lines in here about, if you've never sinned, then, you can throw the first stone. And I think there's the sort of commentators that take it upon themselves to, people are never allowed to recover. I have a friend who was involved in a Royal Commission years ago, and he says to me sometimes, when he looks at jobs, people still drag it up. It's like, how dare you? You know, like, yes, he didn't even make a mistake. I mean, there was no findings against him. There was nothing. But somehow, you know, people want to raise that. And I suppose, in my case with the Bushfire Royal Commission, you know, there are some people who just kind of have to make sure that they've got to always, you know, all of the good things you might ever do and all of the changes you might ever be part of. They couldn't possibly pay attention to those. No. It's always got to be just this bit, and they got to make sure everybody gets reminded that, you know, this person, according to my view, you know,
totally. And the very dangerous thing is a lot of people think their opinions are fact.
Yes, they do.
You know, and it's like, it's not. That's your opinion. And it's a very Australian way to not, you know, like, just chatting to you and what you've done over your career is, you know, extremely incredible and inspiring for women just to go, shit, we can really do whatever we want.
Yes.
But that's not, has rarely been highlighted about you at all.
No.
You know,
it is in, you know, it depends on, you know, who you listen to. Depends on, you know, who's telling the story. And I suppose it's one of the reasons why when I finished working with the bushfire, I mean, I obviously finished with the police and then worked with the Bushfire Recovery Authority for really a year and a bit full time, and then as an advisor for another year, that I then decided, okay, what's the best use of my time and skill now? And that's when I decided that I wanted to, you know, develop a program for women, and so I did some half-day programs, and we had about 1,000 women do the half-day on sort of women and leadership and encouraging women, and then you know, I teach in a broad range of subjects with the Australian New Zealand School of Government, but also I wanted to, you know, develop women in the public sector and run some programs for them. And so I sort of designed a course and then fought to get it run and do that as well. And so we've had, as I said, about 500 women, you know, in the public sector do that. And it's really about sharing my stories, getting the women to think about themselves and about what's holding them back. You know, using some, you know, up-to-date sort of research and thinking about where the women are up to. And so, you know, I think you just have to sort of, you know, it's easy to stay at home and pull, you know, the shed over your head and go, I'm not going anywhere today, you know, and I'm not going to face this. And then I hear my mother going, you know, you got yourself into it, get yourself out of it, get out of bed, you know, and get on with it. And, you know, so you got to put your head up, you got to, you know. And I think sometimes we make this mistake. We think everybody's talking about us and saying horrible things like, no, they're not. They've got whole lives of their own to run. They're not interested in you in the main, you know.
Yeah, so no one thinks about you nearly as much as you think about yourself, do you?
That's exactly the case.